So Reformation in England is kept moving. Henry VI is gone now. He started at the age of 9 and did not last very long. But he has done some good things for Protestant movement. When he died, his sister, took over, and she decided that she wanted to revenge for the divorce of her mother, and also for destroying, moving out from the Roman Catholic Church. Of course, who was her uncle? Her uncle was the emperor of the Roman Empire, So, she had all the support of the Pope, the emperor, and then she was determined. So suddenly the triumphal march was stopped with the death of Edward VI. He died of tuberculosis. He was only 16 years old. And his sister, stepsister Mary, succeeded him to the throne of England. Mary was a staunch Catholic. She proceeded at once to stop Reformation and to bring back Catholicism. She took England at least, by 25 years, she brought it back. The form of worship in use at the death of Henry was brought back. Henry, her father, was brought back. All bishops and clergy who favored Reformation were removed. Many leading Protestants fled England. They were warmly received by Calvin in Geneva or Luther, the Lutherans in Germany. Cardinal Paul returned to England. Parliament voted to restore Pope as the head of the English Church. He had brought back all the laws repealed by Edward VI. The year 1555 was terrible for Protestants in England. 75 Protestant leaders were put to death, among whom was Nicholas Ridley and Hugh Latimer. They were famous people, but Mary was not satisfied. Her next victim was Cranmer, the Archbishop of Canterbury, who gave the divorce for, mother. Yes, Thomas Cranmer did everything to make Protestantism to grow in England. In 1532, Henry VIII appointed Thomas Cranmer the first Protestant Archbishop of Canterbury. Before this, Cranmer was a preacher at the University of Cambridge. He was in contact with many reformers. Cranmer had strong feelings of nationalism. Due to this, Henry made him Archbishop. After the death of Henry, Cranmer was the living force of Reformation. Many changes were made by him. All images were removed from the churches. Cranmer brought from Germany many Protestant scholars to teach in Oxford and Cambridge. Even John Knox was brought to England. Cranmer and John Knox together, they made the 42 articles of the Book of Common Prayer. Late in 1555, Cranmer was excommunicated by Rome. Cardinal Paul replaced him. Cranmer was forced to declare that he recognized the supremacy of Pope over the whole church. But Mary wanted to kill Cranmer. Cranmer did sign a statement in which he denied Protestantism. At the time of his execution, it was set in Oxford on March 21, 1556. Just before his death, Cranmer denounced his denial, and he confessed Protestantism. He put his hand into the fire and burned it because that hand was used to sign the denial. He said, "Give me some time, I will burn this hand that I used to sign the denial." So he put it there until the hand was burnt. Then only he was, executed, So then the flames scorched his body. He died the death of a martyr and a hero. Mary continued her persecution of Protestants. She continued the killing till the day of her death on November 17, 1558. She burned a total of more than 300, pastors and leaders. So she is gone. She is called the Bloody Mary. She indeed was a Bloody Mary. Now when she died, Elizabeth, the daughter of Anne Boleyn, became the next queen. Mary was the daughter of Henry and Catherine, but Elizabeth was the daughter of the second wife, Anne Boleyn. She was a Protestant, Anne Boleyn. Elizabeth did everything in her power to make England Protestant. So the Roman Catholics call her the Bloody Elizabeth. Under Mary, Elizabeth's life was in danger, actually. Mary wanted to kill Elizabeth because she knew, she was a threat. So Elizabeth pretended she was a Catholic to avoid death. And then Elizabeth was educated under the tutorship of Cranmer. And she was a strong Protestant. Against strong opposition of the Parliament, Elizabeth passed a new Supremacy Act on April 29, 1559. Next, she revised the second book of prayer, created by Edward VI. Many items the Roman Catholics believed, were left untouched just to avoid, problem. In 1563, the 42 articles were reduced to 39. Changes were made in the doctrine, worship. The adoption of these changes, known as the Elizabethan settlement. The Catholics were a small minority in England. The Reformation in England was the work of kings and queens, not always of spiritual, leaders. It was a political one. So England basically, then all the kings who came were basically, Protestant kings. The Reformation, the Roman Reformation, that is called the Counter-Reformation, The Catholics all over the world had desired some changes in the Roman system. The disgrace of the Babylonian captivity, the scandal of the Great Schism, and the many abuses existed in the system. People cried for a change. Roman Catholic Church held a couple of councils in Pisa, Constance, and Basel during the 1400s. However, no good came out. All the evils were centered around the Curia, which is the papal government, the body of the cardinals, yes. Worldly Italian princes were controlling the Curia. Leo X was a good man, but he needed money to finish St. Peter's Basilica. For this, the sale of indulgences. And Luther's, opposed them. And we know the story. Then Luther brought Germany out of the control of the Pope and Rome. A generation before, in Spain, Reformation started under a man called Ximenes, Ximenes, Ximenes. He was a Franciscan monk. He became the Archbishop of Toledo. He wanted to enforce strict discipline. He wanted to reform the clergy. Why reform ordinary people, he said. They are not the one who make problem. It's a clergy. So he wanted changes to be brought in the lives of the clergy. This man, he was the emperor's man, so he became the Pope under the name Adrian VI. Pope Adrian was a Dutchman and he was pious. He tried to reform Rome, but he failed. He was never fully accepted by the Italians. He had no idea how deep was the corruption in Rome. The papal court was a vast machinery with thousands of workers. At every turn he made, he faced opposition. Adrian was exhausted and died in 1523. Didn't last very long. He was the last non-Italian pope. Now the next non-Italian pope is the present one from South America, So otherwise Italians continuously were. Adrian made great act which some think was the greatest mistake, while others say it was a great deed. He went to Germany and publicly admitted that the papal court at Rome had made many mistakes before the Lutherans, This was the statement of a pope in his office. So now the truth is known to all, because ex cathedra pronouncement of the pope admitting that the council has made mistake. They always believed the council is inerrant. Now pope admitted it. The Vatican court is corrupt. He said something must be done. So a council was called at Trent. Charles the Emperor was desirous of healing the wound of separation of the Protestants from Rome, because he was the emperor of the whole Rome, and in his Rome there is a warring faction of Lutherans and the Catholics. So he wanted a healing. So he made many efforts to heal. He called many councils, no use. Finally, Pope Paul III summoned a council. It met in a small city of Italy called Trent. The Council of Trent is a milestone in Roman Catholic history because it marks a triumph of the Pope. By now all Protestants have their own creed. Pope Paul III wanted a creed to be made for Catholics. This council at Trent adopted a creed and made a catechism. You know what catechism is? Okay. Many abuses were corrected. Provision was made for better education of the clergy. The supremacy of papacy was established. Actually, the Roman Catholic Church did not make any reform. It removed eventually, some of the superficial mistakes, but it remained basically and essentially the same. The changes were in the fringe, You make some additions in the fringe of a cloth, What difference that will make? The reform of the Catholic Church is called actually counter-reformation. The Protestant Church now found against them a reformed Catholic Church. That means the struggle against the Catholic going to be more terrific fight. The Protestant churches fight for their lives. Charles V tried to destroy Protestantism from his empire. Charles was a man who won't say much. He speak very little. Occasionally he would say something and everybody will listen. It was said about Stalin like that. Stalin spoke very few words. He won't speak anything. But when Stalin said something, the whole world listened because he had something to say. That was the same with his emperor. He won't say very much. But when he spoke, everybody listened. So one day he said a statement. To root out heresy, I shall stake my crown and my life. Then everyone knew that he was decided to destroy Protestantism even at the cost of his own emperorship. People understood. The emperor issued the edict to arrest and kill Luther. But Frederick protected him. Immediately after the diet, Charles wanted to pull out the weed called Lutheranism. But he failed because in 25 years that weed has grown to be a big tree. He cannot pull it out. Its roots were very deep. Now Charles had defeated all his political enemies. He even defeated the Turks. His attention is now turned against Protestants. Now that Charles began his plan to attack Lutheranism, there arose an internal enemy called Maurice of Saxony. He also made Charles a prisoner almost. He made, but he let him go. Someone asked, why did you let Charles escape? He said, I did not have a cage good enough to put him in. അവനെ പിടിച്ചിടാൻ കൊള്ളാവുന്നൊരു കൂടെ ഇല്ല അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് വിട്ടത്. In 1555, Charles found himself in a strait. He was forced to make peace with the Lutherans. So he made the Peace of Augsburg with Luther. According to the agreement, every princely state in Germany was free to adopt whatever religion they wanted, Lutheranism or Catholicism. The religion of the prince will be the religion of the people. So in Germany they had many city-states. Every city-state had princes. So he had to sign that agreement with Luther that, okay, Germany, the prince can decide, what the religion is. Like in Saxony, where Frederick was the prince, it will be Lutheranism, So many states adopted. So Roman Catholics lost a large portion of the land. Due to many reasons, the Reformation movement was brought to a standstill. The Protestant Reformation. The following are some of the reasons. Number one, the Peasant War. And Luther stand with the war. Have you read about the Peasant War? It's a terrible war. See, the Roman Catholic churches and the bishops were owning all the land and the properties. When in those states where the Roman Catholic Church was removed, the priests were gone, the churches were pulled down and all that. Now who sees the land? The peasants claimed the land is theirs because they are the ones who are cultivating it. So they said, give the land to us. But the landlords, the aristocracy has got all the land. Even though the priests and all churches were all gone, the people who gave it to the churches, they got it. They gave it to the middle class people basically. So the land, instead of falling in the hands of the peasants, it came the middle class. So the poor peasants were very much, shaken, and they have taken weapon in their hands. The peasants' war broke out, and lot of people were killed, and Luther sided the middle class. So Luther made the common people his enemy. So basically, Reformation had to be ended there because the people won't accept Luther anymore. So this made common people against Luther and Lutheranism. Reformation was confined to middle class and upper class. That was a blow. The second reason is the problem of the Anabaptists. Some of the Anabaptists did not accept Luther or Calvin because they were mild Roman Catholics in their view. They said the Reformation doctrine, hurt the church and helped the state. It helps only the upper ruling class. Again, the ordinary people were turned away from the Reformation. The third reason was the division among the Protestants. The Romans took advantage of it. Germany is under Lutheranism, France is under Calvinism or the Presbyterian Church. And so basically they were all divided. The Anabaptists were in some places, and Roman Catholics, they exploited that situation because the Protestants were not united. They were kind of fighting each other. Fourth, the people misapplied the doctrine of justification by faith. Calvin and the others so clearly said that no good work is needed for justification before God. Good work has nothing to do with salvation, only by grace, by faith. But you know what people understood by that one? They understood that you don't need to do any good works. You can live the way you want. You are justified by faith. You can drink, you can have 2 wives, you can have this and that. It doesn't matter how you live, because salvation is by faith. As long as you keep believing, you can practice what you want. So what happened, Lutheranism gave birth to a very licentious way of living. It was never expected. It was never expected. Luther only said the truth that, he was fighting against the Roman Catholic doctrine of salvation by, works and sacraments and all that. But it just, in Malayalam we say that kokkinu vechadu, alla chakkinu vechadu, kokkinu kondu ennu paranja poleyanu, so that happened. So, when I read about it, I thought that we need to be very careful. When we say that good works are not necessary, we immediately have to say that, but good works are expected from the saved, and good works are the sign of your salvation. If good works does not follow, then you cannot be accepted as one who is saved by faith, because we are created for good works. So if good works doesn't come, you are not created new. So this is nonsense, So there is a problem. In the Protestant churches, even many churches are filled with Christians who are all saved by grace, by faith, but don't do any good thing. They don't drink and smoke and all those things, true, but they just work money, make money and pile up money in the banks for their next generations. They won't spend anything for good works. This is the sad situation with Protestantism. We don't go the way the Lutherans responded, but this is a danger. So we have to be very careful when we teach doctrine. Part teaching is dangerous. We wanted to make sure that the whole teaching is given. Yes. Another cause was the geographical or spatial separation of the Protestants. Calvinism spread in France, Netherlands, Scotland. Lutheranism only in Germany. They are separated so much. The Peace of Augsburg separated them politically, since it applied only to the Lutherans in Germany. So, there was nothing that united the Protestants together. Catholics everywhere was united by Pope. He was the head. So they were under him. But when it came to Protestants, there was no unity. They were, separated under different heads and all that sort of thing. And then doctrine also. Justification by faith, they all agreed. But on other things, they did not agree. So this problem, even to this day, the Protestant denominations, and that's what Roman Catholics said, that, you say you are all justified by faith and grace and all that. Is that what the Anglicans believe? Is that what, so and so, they have thousands of denominations the people live. So you go first settle there, your doctrine there. Then you come to our homes to settle our doctrine, that sort of a thing. So this is a problem. It's a problem. Then the sixth reason, the counter-Catholic Reformation also slowed down Protestant movement. It vitalized Catholicism. The Catholic Church is stronger with the new weapons. They have, 2-3 weapons in their hand. One of them is called index. You know what index is? Index is a list of forbidden Protestant books and literature. It is called index. So you will go to the Roman Catholic index and take out what books are lately added to that list, It will be very interesting that maybe some of the books we publish will be there in the index. Because from everywhere the priest will be collecting and sending, information that a new book against the Catholic doctrine has come, so put it also under the index. So the index is a list of forbidden Protestant books and literature that the Catholics could never read. They're not allowed. Basically, all Protestant writings were put under the index. Basically, But there may be some, after the Vatican II, the Second Vatican, the what they call the cooperation of the churches, ecumenism, they are little mild on this. The second weapon the Counter-Reformation brought is called the Spanish Inquisition. The Inquisition was a holy office or the court of the Roman Church to punish those who differed from the Catholic doctrines. The head of the Inquisition office was directly accountable to Pope. Under him were many lawyers, notaries, jailers, etc. The Inquisition put out all movements of Protestantism in Italy, Spain, etc. Those who joined Protestants were jailed, killed, or driven to flight. So the Catholics had this weapon with them, the Inquisition. Especially the Spain was in charge of some of the Spanish, clergies were in charge of it. Then the order of the Jesuits. Another major tool in the hands of the Catholicism was the Society of Jesus, or they called them Jesuits. It was founded by a man called Loyola. He was a soldier who was wounded in a battle. While recovering, he was given a book to read, The Lives of the Saints. He read it. He was persuaded to give up his military service and go to monasticism. He went into priesthood, studies in Paris. He met Francis Xavier. In 1534, Francis Xavier and Loyola, they together established the Jesuits. In 1534, these two men established the Society of Jesus. The purpose was to win back people to Roman Catholic Church. Win back, that was. The Jesuits have done excellent missionary work in North and South America. Roman Catholic Counter-Reformation did not make Catholics any better people or better faiths. However, it made them fearful of reading and accepting, any other literature than what was written by the Catholic. Basically, therefore, it slowed down Reformation. Before, Luther's pamphlets and literature were accepted by people everywhere, They were sending all over Europe, and they were taking it and receiving. They didn't have to be afraid that reading it will make them heretics. But now, after, this index, anybody in possession of any book or literature written, put under the index category, they are a heretic. They are a heretic. They are reading literature that is forbidden. It will be like reading Mother India, by anybody. Anybody in possession of Mother India will be, will be executed. That's that much a serious crime it is. So it is like that, So, the Roman Catholics were afraid, frightened. So that affected the Reformation movement, because the Reformation was a movement that, that grew by literature mostly, the literature, the 95 Theses and all that. This is a literature work. The one-to-one sharing and the public preaching were all there, but more people were reached all over the world through the literature. Now the Roman Catholics are the people to whom you will give the literature, and they won't accept it. And that attitude is even today, Even today, you go and give some book to a Roman Catholic, unless he is a rebel Roman Catholic, he will say that no, we have our own books to read. Our clergy has told us not to accept anything like this. And once the priest will say it, they will throw it off. When I went to Pala, that is the Rome in India, in 1989, that was the time I reached there couple of days, maybe a week before what was the saint there in Palai? Alphonsum, yeah. That was Alphonsama's Perunal, So people, there are lakhs of people. I have printed some 10 to 15,000, small books, the Roman Catholics, the wrong teachings of the Roman Catholic Church examined by the POC Bible, that's certain. Yeah. People just took it. Everybody was taking it. And I was, after reading the church history and all that, I thought that how innocent are these Catholics. But they were all taking it. And they took home and read it, I guess. But that Sunday, the bishop's letter went out to all churches, condemning, then they named that a Protestant group has come in Palai, and they are engaged in activities. Do not welcome them in homes or take any literature from them, and all that is taken out, received from them, must be burnt. Man, so I was on the spotlight. I received one letter from a man, Joseph Pulikundan, who was, I received one letter. He said that, Mr. Thomas, I'd like to meet you. Could you stop at my office? He didn't know where I was living, so he gave the address. So I went there, and the first time I meeting him, so we had a nice. He said, "You know what you did? You were bombing Rome." Where do you get the courage to do it? Actually, I didn't have the courage. I knew a little about them. That's why I did it. If I knew that they were that bad, I probably won't do it. But I had about 10, 15 believers also with us, and we distributed. So he gave his hand and said that, I am with you. Keep doing it. I am also fighting from another point of view, So he was the one who encouraged, and it was interesting. The Roman Catholic Church won't allow you to distribute any literature against their church or in favor of our doctrines to them. The people are afraid. They were, literally they are afraid. It's just like the Muslims. The Muslim will never accept a Bible or Christian literature. Because why? They have taught that this is all corrupt, and if you touch the Bible you have to wash your hands. And the reason why they say all this, they know that if the people will read the Bible, they will reject the Quran. They will immediately find out that the Bible is original and genuine, the Quran is